Thank you for your interest in contributing to our study to label lines within bug fixing commits. I will now show you how to do this with our VisualSHARK. First, you need to log in with the credentials we give you. So here, I'm showing it to you with a test account and the username. So just log in, and you will be brought to our dashboard. In the dashboard, you can see which projects we have in the database, so basically how much data we have. So this is an overview of everything we have, also not related to this project. When you want to start labeling lines, go to the Changed Lines part, and you are immediately brought to the first issue of the training. So we prepared a couple of issues for you, which you have to do at the beginning to get started, to learn basically how this works. The loading can take a couple of seconds depending on the load we currently have in the database. And then after a couple of seconds, you see then the first issue for which you have then the bug fixing commits and should determine which of the lines are part of the bug fix. At the top, you have the descriptions, which labels we have. So you can label lines either as bug fix. These are lines that contribute to the corrective change. White spaces, so changes that do not affect the logic of the source code and are only to the white spaces. Changes to documentation, so this can be Java docs, this can be documentation files, this can be inline comments. Pure refactorings like renamings of variables. Changes to test code, or any other changes that are possibly also improvements or other bug fixes, but not related to the issue. And well, finally, you can also remove the labels from lines. Then you see the description of the issue. So here we have the issue IO304 from the Commons.io project with the title, the second constructor of the Tailor class does not pass delay to the third one. Then we have this very nice issue description, which directly shows that here we have a hard-coded value where possibly the delay should be passed. Then we see the commits that are linked to this issue. So you can see here this is a commit message. You can clearly see IO304 was addressed by this issue, also in the comment. And finally get to the diff view of the changes we have. So for the first change was to the file changes.xml. You can just click on next and come to the change here. And this is a file that Apache projects usually have, and it just says, in this commit, I worked on this issue, and this was solved, so they use this to generate change logs. These are always documentations. You can just click here on this button, and then you mark every change in this file as documentation. As soon as you have marked all changes in the file, this gets green to show you that you're done with this file. You can then scroll and go to the next file that was changed. Now we have the tailor.java, where from the issue description we know that the constructor is apparently broken. You can either see then here in the sidebar, here are the changes, and click there, or you just go to next and are taken immediately there. You can see here the constructor that's mentioned, which here passes in the old version the hard-coded 1000, and in the new version the parameter that's being passed. And so this is obviously exactly what's being fixed. So we click on this line, can do a right click and select the context menu that this is a bug fix, and we get then here the red marking showing you that you labeled this as a bug fix. Or you can click on a line and just press the 1 on your keyboard, and this also gets marked as a bug fix. Now we have labeled everything in this file, and it became green. Once you're done, you're at the bottom, you can just click jump to the top and submit your results. And you get usually immediately taken to the next issue. If this is not the case, you just have to refresh the page. The next issue is described here. It's again an issue from IO, and you can see here that somehow the delete directory on exit does not work, and the analysis, if you read through this, is at the calling order of the file delete on exit is wrong and should be reversed. We can go and see it's the work that the developers did. So we have here this commit, which first we see again the changes XML. We can immediately mark this documentation, go to the next file. Then we have the file utils. Click on it, and then we can again see the diff. This time we see that here this line was deleted and it was added here, so it's exactly what was described. The deletion order was changed. So again, these lines both contribute to the bug fix. We mark them with a cursor and use the one on the keyboard. Marked everything and are done with this file. And then we have another file here, the file utils test case, which is the JUnit test. You can click on next and see that the test case for this issue was added. And since all these changes are related to test, we can again mark the whole file as test. Jump to the top and submit. So these first two issues in your training, they are really straightforward. The next one is a bit more complicated, but still relatively easy to understand. Here the issue is that some static string buffers are not thread safe. So there's this private method dump that's apparently working in a non-thread safe manner on the L buffer and the C buffer variables, and this should be fixed. So we look at the changes. This is the hex.java, so apparently this is a file we're interested in. We look at it, and first we see this call to the dump method, and we see that it's somehow being changed, that instead of calling dump, calling the buffer and then appending something, we call dump with the buffer. And this happens 2 times. Without further inquiry, we cannot know whether this is part of the bug fix, so we go to the next change. And here we see the 2 suspect variables. So these are our 2 static variables, and we see that they are removed. So we might already suspect that this is part of the bug fix. We look at it in more detail, and then we see here these dump methods, and we see that instead of using the static buffers, they're always getting the buffer from the caller now to make them thread safe. So these changes are exactly the bug fix that's mentioned. So we can mark the deletion of these buffers as well as the change in the dump method as all bug fix. Then we also know that our prior change we had before to the dump method are due to this bug fix, and we can also mark these lines as part of the bug fix. And we again jump to the top and submit our labels. The final issue I want to show you here in the tutorial is this one about wrong URL decoding in the file utils2 file. And the issue is basically that the sequence is decoded incorrectly currently, so it should decode to the %20, but apparently it doesn't. So let's look at the code again. First, we see that here a test case was added in this commit, and we see here's a change to the file utils test case. So again, this is test. Also look at the change and see that only the test was added. Then we go to the next commit, and this is the one where the actual work was done. So you can see that there might be multiple commits for the same issue, and then they're listed one after the other. And in this commit, you can see that the actual work on the file util is being performed. Now let's look at what happened. First, we see that 2 imports are added. We do not know yet whether these are part of the bug fix or not. So instead, we go to the next change. We see that some static member was added. We also do not know yet whether this is part of the bug fix or not. So we continue, and here we see a nice feature we have here. So here we see that some comments were changed. Over here, down here. You can already see that these lines are marked. So we have an automated detection that is not perfect, so you should always check this, of lines that are only comments. And then these are pre-marked, and you do not need to mark them manually anymore. This also happened down here, and you can see here in the gray, we do the same for white spaces. So in this line, here only a new line was added, and we marked this already as a line that only contains white spaces. So this should help you that you only need to look at the actual source code changes and not also at changes to comments. So you should check that, but most of it should already be marked correctly. Then let's look at the other changes. First, we see here that the second part of the if clause was changed. So instead of calling equals on the protocol, now equals is called on this file with ignoring the case. While this is certainly a better solution that is more robust, it's not part of the bug that's mentioned. So this is an unrelated improvement, and we mark it as such. So this is why this issue is a bit more tricky. Now we have unrelated improvement mixed in with the bug fix because somebody, well, was touching this code and saw that this is bad style. Next, we have here this return value. Let's look at this. So this looks like it was added. But if we scroll down here a bit, we see that this is exactly the same. So this is just, again, unrelated to the bug fix. It's just because the diff is done in a certain way. So we mark it again with the color for unrelated, which is our key code 6. And here now we have the final the change on the green side. So this one is a call to a new method that should then do the decoding instead of here the old code, which apparently was buggy because it did not correctly convert the characters. So this that was deleted part is the wrong code, so part of the bug fix. And this change that instead this new method that we find down here is also part of the bug fix. The comment is again already marked, including here the inline comments within this method. And we now see that this new method is the new logic for fixing the bug. So assuming that the developers at Apache knew what they were doing, we can mark this as the bug fix. You can also mark multiple lines at once, and even if there's nothing in between, if you then mark everything, it only marks these lines. And we're done. We see the next is again just a test case, so we mark it as such. That's the bottom, and we jump to the top. If we now click on Submit Labels, we will get a warning because we did not label our lines. So if you remember, we had the imports and the UTF-8 variable that was added. So when you have that, you get the message, and then you get here where you missed something. You can directly jump there, actually have links here at the top of the file that tell you what you missed. So you can jump there and see these are the imports. These imports, we look at the change again, we used in this method. So the imports are part of the bug fix, and we mark them as such. You can see the jump tools here at the top are vanishing. This one is the UTF-8. We can actually use the search function within the editor, look for UTF-8, and see that's again used in our new method. So the addition of this variable is also part of the bug fix. And then we have one line here that we missed, which is here, the closing of the function, which of the else block, which is the same as this one down here, and again unrelated because it's just due to the diff that we have it this way, here and here. We're done. We jump to the top again and submit. So thank you for watching this tutorial and for your interest in this project, and we hope that you will join us in our effort to label as many commits as possible.